Welcome everybody to USL Live Season 26, the Week 8 preview show. I'm Eric, I'll be your host this evening, and joining me in the booth I have Fausto.
Hello, hello.
Eso.
Sup?
Angelus.
Yo, yo.
And a new face in Draco.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going, guys? How we doing?
Doing well. Thank you for waiting for me, Eric. I love that.
Anytime, buddy. Anytime.
Courtesy. Appreciate you. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, of course. Well, we can jump right into Week 7. We only had 3 matches, and I was going to say only one was a decent one, but you know what? The K-Dune and Franco turned out to be a pretty fun one, too. So we'll start off with MDR over Evolution, 106-31, your MVP, as Ram would say, on Hero. Go ahead, Fausto.
Yeah, not surprising on the score. It was good to see Macrodata put the aggression, so to speak. Unfortunately, it was against Evolution. Draco played very well given the circumstances of losing by 70 plus. Stoink played pretty decent as well. They were in the right positions. Unfortunately, their team didn't really capitalize on those positions. Great Chompy was a nuisance. Exodus played a hell of a game as Ripper, really suppressed that fire and allowed his players to get in position. Not much really to say. Unfortunately, I wish it was a little different, maybe a little closer. Not too sure what goes on in Evolution Discord, but I'm glad to see that Draco's on this panel today to kind of give us the insight as to kind of what goes wrong. I'm really curious because they got some decent players on that squad.
Okay, Isa.
Not much more to add on top of what Fausto said, but yeah, definitely shout out to shit ass. I think that's Stoink, I believe. Solid 8-14 despite having such a huge loss. But yeah, good job to MR for, I mean, what do you call it? Belt to ass, man. They definitely showed out in a huge win. And as Fausto said, I'm just kind of curious to see what Draco has to say and what's been going on this whole season. So, but yeah, not much else.
Okay, Angelus, as somebody who decided to sit himself and ruin a bunch of fantasy players, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, I'm glad or sad to hear you were negatively impacted, depending on what time of day it is. But I said even last week, like we weren't chasing this whole rating thing. I just wanted my guys to play because we got a lot of the CTFers who are essentially afraid to play because there's only so many games. But with the way Evolution season went, this was a comfortable game to get people in. So I think we only had 2 normal starters in, then 6 kind of backups, including people that hadn't played with us all season. So it's really we had kind of figured out how we wanted to play the map thanks to some SBs between Darkslayers and Franco. So we were a little bit active throughout the week. We had a couple nights of work, and Chompy really got a good feel for the map at the highest level. So he was leading for us for the first time, and just really clean win by the guys. I was watching from Spec, just having fun, making fun of how terrible our user is. But yeah, the guys had fun. It was a good game for us, and it looked pretty painful for Evo. So sorry for that.
All right, Draco. What was going on over there?
It's definitely pretty painful. I mean, we had a game plan, kind of right then and there. It wasn't really developed. I don't think we squad battled once on this map the entire week. So that played an effect. And I think throughout the season, we didn't have one solid leader, which is really bad. And then we just didn't have a top 8 every week. And I know Bowen wanted to play everybody, which is fine. And I know it's been called out quite a bit. But yeah, it was really frustrating, especially when we had all these different classes and it felt like we couldn't do anything. We couldn't hold, we couldn't push. So I felt like we should have had, 5 Marines, an LMG, and 2 medics the entire game. We should have had that, but we didn't have it. It wasn't called out, and we just kept with it. And yeah, it was just tough for us. We're in certain positions, right out the gate. We lose that dude to a mortar. I pretty much called it out in the squad chat. Hey, we had, I think it was Grump was a grenadier, right? And I was like, yeah, I called it out. And what ended up happening, we just get pretty much an opening kill right there for them. Unfortunately, right out in the open. And then they were pushing. So I think MDR almost got caught there as they were pushing into us. And I thought we were going to take advantage on the top of that rock. But unfortunately, I didn't get the kill on, I think it was Ruler. And I think Andro, I think That's his name. He played really well as a medic. Exodus was probably one of our biggest headaches that entire game. Like he was just laying down streams of Ripper Fire the entire time. So it was really rough for us to deal with that. And then, dealing with Chompy as well and on our flank. So I think overall, going forward, as far as like Evo is concerned, going into next week, I think we have to just play to our strengths, not play these other classes, and actually like get after it. Because we do have like talented players on our team, and I just feel like when we're playing like Ripper or Demo, like it just doesn't serve us when we need to like focus fire and take out players. And I think that's like the biggest thing. But yeah, Bowen's going to be there next week, and he's going to be playing Nader, so maybe that makes a difference.
Well, let me ask you this, because you brought up playing to your strengths. As somebody who's commentated and spectated like every single one of your matches, just about what do you feel is Evolution's strengths? Because from how we've seen you guys play, I think the only decent game was the first 15 minutes against Darkslayers, where you guys were setting up ambushes and everything. So what is your guys' strengths?
Yeah, I think that's really hard to find. It's really hard to find our strengths and what we can do. I think overall is like our positive attitude, and we want to do well. And I think that's like the biggest thing. We want to do well every game. And I think I'm surprised like half the team is still here, having the season that we had. But I think during like the matches, I think our strength is just like kind of coming together and just figuring out on the fly. But I think we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do in order to kind of get there and be competitive. Yeah, I think the focus fire, like our killing power, is just not there, and and survivability is one of those things that we need to work on too.
One last follow-up question, because you said you had multiple leaders. I know Bowen was probably one of them. I think I NT'd and Mosh was one of them. I'm assuming Smack might be the other one, and who is probably leading against MDR. Who all has been leading, and who do you feel as though should be the consistent leader for you guys?
Yeah, so I mean, we had Bowen, we've had Mosh, we've had Smack Rock. I think maybe Trax stepped up a little bit here, and then Iceman as well. Honestly, in my opinion, I think Bowen should just kind of like step away from that, because I think being an admin and leader is really difficult. And shout out to him, because I can imagine like how challenging it is for him to week in week out to lead the team. But I honestly think Iceman should be like the leader in my sense, and or that or Mosh, and just have them lead the entire time. I think Smackrock's good. I think it's just we just need to have him there every single week, because it's between Bowen and Smackrock, it's kind of like a little different here and there. So I think I prefer Iceman. I don't know. I think we just rallied around him a lot more, and Mosh as well. So
fair enough. All right, the next match of the night was Cocaine over Darkslayers, 45-23. Your MVP was Splitta. Fausto, go ahead and talk to me about this one.
Overall, I think it was a pretty decent game. I don't think the score is indicative of kind of how close it was. I mean, there was some, as people say, garbage kills at the end. It is what it is. That's the nature of the game. We started off very slow. I got here a few minutes late, and so that kind of took us out of position. Yeah, I know. Imagine that. Sorry, guys, but Jesus, he is risen. Beside the point, it was very interesting to see how Cocaine was kind of running it. Right off the rip, they tried to push a couple of angles. They were successful in the first 2.5 battles. And then we finally stabilized, and I called a shift to south when we overtook them in the South Rocks. But I think what really plagued us this game once again was the fact that we're not finishing up our kills. If you really pay attention to the game, I think we were within 7 with about 8 minutes to go, 9 minutes to go, roughly about there. And there was 2 continuous battles that happened where we got the opening kill, and Cocaine just had a hell of a fallback, and we just couldn't capitalize. I think we killed Pister at one. No, not Pister. I think it was Leak at one point, and I maybe Pister the other point. But we just couldn't capitalize. They had a hell of a fallback, and I will give a shout out to Victim. Victim played out of his mind um, against us. He just did all the right things. He had the right darts, the right fallbacks. Unfortunately, and we've talked about it in my squad's chat on Discord, some people underperformed, but they are aware that they underperformed. I'm not going to mention any names. You can kind of see the scores and kind of go from there. Our mindset is to always be competitive. It was to slow it down, but also to be able to counter and outmaneuver Cocaine, which we did in some instances, but the majority of the time we lost one off the rip. There was, I think, 2 battles where we lost one either to a law or no, each 2 people were to a law. One was in an open field battle, one was South Rocks, and that really hurts us. We're not a squad, unfortunately, that can kind of withhold 7v8 for a long period of time. We need to get better at that. That's something that I need to work on to position my players a little better, I guess. And our fallbacks aren't the best. I think we get overconfident sometimes and we stay there too long in the enemy base and we just pay the price. So we need to work on fallbacks. I think that's really what you saw here is not being able to clean up our kills and not being able to fall back when we needed. Overall, though, I mean, I'll give it to Cocaine. They beat us. I would have liked to have seen a little more movement from both squads, including my own. There was some stuff that I was trying to say out loud, but I think something that I'm going to work on is maybe not soloing as much to stay with the main team. I think, Eric, you might have alluded to it last week. I need to stay with the main team or the flank team more to be able to call certain swings that maybe I'm not seeing in real time. I think that'll make us a little more of a benefactor going into playoffs. Standout players for me, obviously, Leak, top dog there for Cocaine, but really, aside from Victim, Splitter really held his own there. He caught me once, and he just had the right angle every time. For us, Tyrael played a hell of a game again. He had an awesome couple of nade kills on you guys on Cocaine. Uni played pretty decent. He was out of position a couple of times, but overall, he's still been pretty consistent, and he could hold his own toe to toe. Overall, I think it was a good match to watch, and I'd like to hear what you all say for feedback and constructive criticism.
Yeah, before I go to ESO, I'll call out one of the players, and it actually wasn't really his fault. I'm confused as to why Typhoon stayed demo as long as he was. He was hitting his RPGs, but that plague of not being able to finish kills, like, I don't know if he just wasn't calling focus on the people he was hitting because there was no follow-up on the RPGs he was hitting. And with LMG open, I would have expected him to be LMG after the first fight. So what happened there?
I will say that I guess one things I really don't do. I mean, obviously it's Tyrael squad, and I respect that. Typhoon, well, one, I got there late, number one, but two, Typhoon said, "Hey, I'm gonna go demo," and I really didn't counter him and say, "Hey, go LMG." So he just stayed demo, right? That could, I guess that's on me for not saying, "Hey, dude, go LMG. We need the firepower." In my head, I assumed that when a demo hits an RPG, a Marine follows up with, assault rifle bullets, right? That wasn't the case here. If you look at the tape, we had individual streams going, and and it was everybody, right? I mean, we had them on the back foot. I think two or three battles that we probably could have mopped up an additional 5 to 6 kills, and we probably could have made this a lot more competitive and or take the lead at one point. But yeah, to answer your point, Eric, I don't think I did the right call on countering Typhoon's decision to go demo. Hindsight, obviously, I would have loved for him to go LMG, but that wasn't the case.
Okay. ESO?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like for me, speaking of showing up late, I was like 10 minutes late, so I had to rewatch the video. Shout out to
Hacker
MP
troll.
again for dropping that video. But as far as the match itself, I was more impressed by Cocaine. Honestly, I think they definitely it was close at first, but it kind of fell apart for DS towards the end. We were kind of speaking about it, but I'm kind of surprised at the medics. It's kind of like a almost a complete turnaround from the other week where Skeletor and Havoc didn't play so well this match, and the past few weeks they actually were playing pretty well. So that was kind of interesting to see there. But huge shout out to Victim. I think Fausto mentioned that he 1-1, definitely stepped up, and I think this is probably his best game of the season so far. So hopefully he kind of carries that over to the playoffs. And also, Mecha had a lot of big kills as well. on demo, so that was nice to see as well. And then one thing I wanted to mention, it's kind of leads towards a little mailbag question, but just or sorry, not Franco, DS missing a few players, a few key players as well, like Shas and Manu. I think that really affected them. I mean, you could see it in the scores. A lot of scores like Typhoon, Brilhart, Fly Molo looks like they really struggled in that match. So it would have been interesting to see those two in there. Maybe that kind of helps even it out a bit. But yeah, I'm more impressed by Cocaine and a big win for sure.
Yeah, I mean those players. I mean you throw in Kaga there too, but apparently Tyrael burned that bridge with Kaga. Um, don't know the whole details on that, but interesting take. So, Angelus, go ahead, bud.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing you said is news to me. I kind of mentioned last week, I like Dark Slayers in the upset of this game if they can show their best. But then we were looking at who was on spec when the game started, and I pointed out there's no Kaga, there's no Shasta. Maybe I'm going to change my pick at this point. And I did, and the game went accordingly. It certainly wasn't a camp fest by either team. I was a little surprised by Dark Slayers. Maybe it's more of a pointed question to Fausto. In the last 10 minutes, you guys were down like just over a fight, maybe 10 kills, but you still weren't getting on the aggressive from what I could tell in spec. Like you were still setting up this big defensive web. You had Brill sitting trying to catch Mountain for what seemed like forever. I don't know how many minutes it was. But in my head, I'm just thinking, you've got to win more than a fight. Why are you guys sitting here waiting for it? Like, you've got to go find it. So I don't know if you guys are just protecting the score at that point, saying we're probably not going to catch them. But in my head, I was thinking, like, for us, we're going to just keep going. Like, yeah, we're down 10. We got to surround them. We got to fight. We got to engage. It felt like Cocaine was really the ones with the pedal to the metal this game. Whereas I would have thought Darkslayers was going to go for it a little bit more. So yeah, it went about as expected. I've got some players of the game. We'll get to that later, but yeah, it was fun to watch. It wasn't a camp fest by any means, but I don't know. Recurring thing with Darkslayer, it seems like once they get down, they slow down so much. And we've had the kind of similar criticisms on our team. Like our flanks can't find anything to do. I wasn't seeing much of the flank action from DS this week either.
Okay,
So
Draco?
well, you might have answered that question real quick. So to answer your question there, Angelus, that there was two thought processes going on there. If you notice, I had Brilhart and I think Eric and Yosh were commentators of that match, and they said, "What the hell is Brilhart doing back there?" So obviously, big brain over here, which in theory kind of worked, but obviously it didn't work. Was that he was going to outflank Mountain because Mountain had already done that route twice, I believe it was, in between Pink Building and whatever that small building is. Right southwest of it, and so that was at that process. Why Brilhart played so back? I just didn't know if Mountain was going to come between the left side of Pink or right hand side of Pink. So I wanted to position him outside of peripheral, if that makes sense. In
Yeah.
terms of why we didn't push there, my thought process, which obviously was incorrect, and I'll take blame, is that I thought Cocaine was going to get antsy and push in to an awkward choke down south. Now, I think that if one of my players doesn't eat a law right off the rip from Mecha, which is that's when Mecha push underneath Hanger, he lawed one of my guys to start the match. I think we would have been able to take that battle. Unfortunately, that's not what happened in that case. But that was my thought process with that play. And I looked at the video footage, the playback. Thanks, MP, once again. Cocaine did the same thing. They were camping now. They had the advantage that they were up. I was just trying to bait them in. So that was, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, gotcha. Thanks.
I will chime in a little bit because I said it in the commentary too. The biggest flaw, I think, with you slowing it down intentionally and waiting for that final battle to kind of take it is almost never have I seen you guys truly win a clean battle. And I was saying in the commentary, at least like push a little bit, get 2 to 3 kills, fall back, and then go ahead and make that final push type thing. Because then there's less stress on everybody to perform the battle perfectly. If one goes down, it's whatever. You guys still take the lead if you guys win the battle, right? So that was what I was saying in commentary. And I think overall, if you guys did play a little bit more aggressive at certain times, you guys definitely could have not necessarily won, but maybe taken the lead back at certain points of the match.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Eric. I think the fact that we couldn't clean up the kills, we should have engaged a lot more because, yes, that would have caused a lot more stress being down a battle and a half or 2 battles, and we're not able to mop up a clean 8, which we didn't do all game, you know?
Yep, I hear you. Draco, what you got?
Yeah, Split had a fantastic game. He had some really great opening battle kills, and then Victim played extremely well, saved his team from in many occasions, and then Mecca was probably the most, I would say, almost the most clutch there. I mean, there was I think a situation like underneath rocks there, like where DS was kind of holding. It was like almost like a 10 kill game or something like that, and I think Mecca just opened it up and just kind of pushed under south and just pretty much won it for won it for Cocaine there. And solid game from King, and Simp had a rough game, taking some laws and some bad deaths here, but I expect him to bounce back. But yeah, kind of what I expected overall. But I think DS definitely had like an opportunity there to win the game for sure.
Yeah, fair enough. Split, go ahead and save this recording. Split carried that game, 100%. Splitta opened, I want to say 2 or 3 fights with Laws, one on Havoc in the open, and then I think he was like 8-3. I'm not looking at the scores, but if not for him getting those battle opening kills, Cocaine doesn't push as aggressive as they were, and they possibly lose a few of those fights. So shout out to Split. That's why he was MVP, and he's one of my top 3 players for this week. Victim, hell of a game. You guys should have killed him as he was running along the baseline there on that south push. He somehow managed to get away. Combination of just good positioning on his part and then terrible aim by Dark Slayers to finish that off. But that's all I got on that one. The last match of the night, which was way more entertaining than I thought it would be. It was K-Dude over Franco, 80-54. Your MVP was Tactical. Go ahead, Fausto.
Yeah, it was I was in and out of this game because I'll be honest with you, I didn't think it was going to be close at all, and so I stepped away for a bit, and I came back, and they were within, I don't know, like 2.5 battles or something. So I was like, oh shit, what's going on here? And so by that time, I get on and I see people rooting for Jim, and so I start watching the lag god known as Jim, and he was playing very well, very well. The score isn't indicative of how well he was playing. I will say that obviously the NTs that they had really helped Franco out. It was good to see a quote unquote mid to lower tier squad. Don't spam me back by saying that. Really go toe to toe with the number 1 and or number 2, depending on who you're asking squad, and keep it very respectful in terms of the kill death margin. Players obviously Bex popped off 13 and 9, or shall I say NY, because apparently Bex didn't show up. Sabotage consistent 13 and 11. He's really been a pillar for this squad week in and week out. It was good to see Nas come back and play. He hardly comes on, and Ernie and TG kind of did their thing at 15 to pop. Overall, I thought the score was going to be a huge spread, probably 50-60, and this was not the case. So big respect to Franco and Bax and company. It was very fun to watch.
Yeah, Iso.
Yeah, definitely a lot of action. This was a pretty good match. It was nice that it did end up a lot closer than probably everybody would have predicted, especially myself. Same boat here. I was looking at like a 50-60, kill margin as far as a win for K-Dude. So it was cool to see them Franco keep it close. So huge shout out to Sabo. He played really well. Everyone was saying Jim as well. He had a lot of big lost snipes, a lot of big kills, and kind of like pivotal moments. And then I'm also kind of more so a little surprised as far as K-Dude this season. I feel like they maybe had one good game against Cocaine when they were really kind of, clicking all cylinders and actually performing together. Other than that, they've struggled surprisingly against squads like Franco and especially Dark Slayers. So we'll see if that kind of translates into playoffs. I'll be interested to see that. But yeah, just shout out to Franco for keeping it close. I don't think anyone would have predicted that score, that's for sure.
Yeah, Angelus.
Yeah, I mean, just a second what everyone else said. As much as I come in here and complain about how slow paced these games are on Sunday, this was the total opposite. If I remember correctly, K Dude kind of got ahead shortly after the beginning. Franco maybe even opened up with a lead, but K Dude got ahead. But then instead of sitting back and trying to reduce bad things from happening, Franco just kept holding forward, and they were winning some of these fights. And I don't know if it's a frowned upon thing, but I even thought Bax was playing a good game at LMG. He was lacing people with the split LMG between 2 folks and getting both of them a couple times. So I've got him on my players to talk about later, but I'd be interested to know who was leading for them. And people were saying like, oh, they have NTs. Respectfully, I just don't know who the people are. Maybe they're great legends or something. I just don't know the names here. But yeah, it was a lot better than I thought it would be. I thought this would look closer to like when we played K Dude a few weeks ago and it'd be like an 80-point loss. But no, this was a lot of fun to watch and really good for the zone, I thought.
Yeah, Draco.
Yeah, an absolutely fun match. I wasn't expecting to see Killer and Soul come in for NTs for Franco. It was a good surprise. I hope they stick around and play again. Bax played really well, going 13-9, so we'll call that out. Sabo was solid, and of course we got Big Jim. Big Jim coming in and playing. I think, is this his first game of the season? Does anyone know? Like coming in and playing? But yeah, he was fantastic. I think him coming up and getting some clutch kills here and there, and kind of the duel against TG was kind of epic as well. So big shout out to Big Jim there. And then Nas and Tactical having really great games as expected. Saw playing medic again. It's good to see him play med, and he was just great as always. And then I was hoping to see more from Ace, but it's no big deal. It's not really a big loss there, going 1-8, but just hoping to see a little bit more from him. And then Eric having a solid game.
Yeah, to answer your question about Jim, that was the second game. I think a lot of the times people are afraid to play him because of possibly getting spec'd for lag and losing a player slot. Personally, I don't think Jim lagged that bad. Yes, there were times where there might have been some lasers, but it wasn't as bad or egregious, in my opinion, as Pandy's warping. Like that tank trap that he magically warped back to, and then there was one part where I'm in the garage, the south garage, and the door closes. On my screen, he's on the other side of the door, and then all of a sudden he warps into the fucking building with me. I shoot a law. I don't know if it registered or not. Clearly it didn't because he fucking ate it. And we ended up trading instead of me getting a kill or me staying alive as long or longer. But overall, that was a good game. Sabo had a really good kill on me on the south. And then, yeah, they just... Soul and Killer, I'm not going to say it was an NT thing. Soul's a very good player. Angelus, since you don't know him. And Killer is an old vet. I figured he would have been rusty, because I haven't personally seen him on that much, but I guess he's been NTing with Dark Slayers throughout the week. So he didn't look bad. He definitely looked a little lost on the map in general, but Bax had a big game, and just shout out to them for pushing. It was fun. The score is close, whatever, but it was actually fun after the last 2 weeks matches that we've had on K-Dude to actually sit there and fight the entire time. So it was a good game. Shout out to Bax and Franco for keeping it close until probably the last 2 minutes, in which we got a bunch of kills and pulled it away a little bit more than what it was. I think at one point they were down by 8. But yeah, I mean, Ace is still learning. I think it would have been better if Sov and TG said, hey, Ace, stick on this person, because there were definitely some times where if you look at it, he just kind of looked lost as to where to go or where to be. So I think if somebody just said, hey, stick on this person, follow this person, do what they do, I think he would have had a better game. But on that, GG's. So that leads into our top 3 players for the week. I'll just say mine right off the rip. I had G, Victim, and Big Jim as my top 3. Fausto, who you got? Fausto, you're muted. All right, skipping Fausto. Iso, who you got for your top 3?
Yeah, for sure, Victim is going to be up there. And then I'm going to give one of them to Bax, surprisingly. I'll give him a shout out there. And then my last one, that was a split as well. Yep.
All right, I'm back.
All right, who's your top 3, Fausto?
I got similar to you guys. I got Victim, Splitta, and Bax. And I'll real quick as to why Victim. I mean, he only had 1 death, and honestly, I think he carried a lot of the cocaine load. And on the healing front, and Splitta because he was in the right place at the right time throughout the entire 30 minutes. And Bax just a huge score given the loss, and as well as saying, let's go head toe to toe against K-Dude, and really showing the community, as Angela said, a fun match to watch. Regardless of the score, it was just a fun match to watch. So good job on the score and good job on going toe to toe against K-Dude.
Okay, Angelus.
Yeah, I had Bax, who I think I just found out was also leading that game, but either way, he was stacking kills and really dominating some people. I had Mountain, who just watching from Spec, looked to do a lot of what we've got Chompy doing on our squad, which will be my third player we get to. But both these guys playing AT, just getting the wide angles and providing so much vision and information from their team. Like some of us, we'd call it like map hacking from StarCraft. Once you can see everything, the game slows down a lot. And I think those guys are really providing it for their team. And yeah, last one for me was Chompy. He was leading our comms. He was leading our kills. He was really just dominant that whole night.
Okay, Draco, who you got?
Got G, Victim, and Exodus. I think Exodus played really well, so he deserves a top 3 spot.
All right, fair enough. So that leads us into the final week of the regular season, week 8. It doesn't look like any matches were scheduled yet when I took the schedule down. So first match I got is DS at Franco. Go ahead, Fausto.
Well, if it's any indication of how it's going to play out, how it was against K-Dude, I think it's going to be a fun match to watch. I do hope that Franco can show their full lineup. There's no holiday that I know of, and so I think it's going to be just I think this one's going to be a positional game as always. Not much camping, but kind of toe to toe, just a standard fight south, maybe one solo up north, but that's pretty much about it. I think we're going to try to minimize our support classes and go back to the basics with LMGs and Marines. Maybe a nader, maybe a demo. I'm not too sure. Our goal is obviously to win, but I do like the momentum that Franco does have. So we got to watch out for specific players. Players to watch out for are going to be players like Sabotage, Pandy if he shows up, and even Bax. I think it's a little late in the season for Franco to gain that traction, but I'm glad to see that there is traction with this squad. We were calling it the first 5-6 weeks, and they're finally getting the groove. I'm still going to give it to Dark Slayers. Call me biased. I hope that our top lineup shows up, but I think we'll win within 15 kills or so. It's not going to be a huge differential. I think it's going to be pretty competitive and fun.
Okay, Issa.
Yeah, I think this is going to really depend on who shows as far as for Dark Slayers. If they get Kaga to show, they get Shasta to show, Manu, any kind of combination of those players, I think Dark Slayers will definitely take this, by like 40 to 50 kills. They shouldn't have any issues at all. But if they don't show those guys, then I feel like Franco is going to keep it close and have a similar match to kind of what they did against K-Dude, where they keep it pretty close. They have a nice solid match, but they still in the end will lose by like 10 to 15 kills. So definitely just depends on who shows for Dark Slayers. But yeah, like I said, I have Dark Slayers taking it out. I'm gonna say by like 20 kills, because I feel like Shasta will show up and maybe Manu shows up for this one as well. As Fausto was saying, I don't think you want to take Franco too lightly coming off of that performance against K-Dude. So they'll show a pretty good lineup and they'll take this.
Okay, Angelus.
Yeah, I'll take the upset on this one. I seem to always take the upset when either of these squads is playing, and now they're against each other. So I'll take Franco on this one. Just based on what happened last week, I'm worried the Darkslayer's best players won't be showing up, at least some of them. So if they're there, sure, the metrics and everything say they should take care of business. But if they're not, I think Franco's got a really good chance to ride that momentum they established being competitive with K-Dude and take the upset win.
Okay, Draco.
Yeah, looks like another fun match for next week. Will DS allow NTs is the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody from Franco is actually going to show up this time, and I hope everybody that should be starting for Dark Slayers starts and shows up. I also agree with what Fausto said in bringing it back to the basics. Other than an LMG, whether that be Typhoon, Shas, or Kago, whoever's showing and going to play that class, the only support class should be in the hands of King, whether it's Nader or Demo. Just because I think he's more vocal when he's Demo and he's probably calling the hits and calling the focus fire. Whereas I don't know if Typhoon was really doing that, again, in regards to their last match. I think that regardless of the NTs or not, if Franco plays the way they do against K-Dude and DS plays the way they do, like they did against Cocaine, Franco can win this. But what I see happening is if Franco is taking it to Dark Slayers, Foster's going to slow the game down, and then Bax is going to get quote unquote antsy and make mistakes if he's the one leading. And I think regardless of if the top players show for Dark Slayers, I think that patience from Fausto and crew will be able to win out. I would like to see Franco pull off the upset, but I do think Dark Slayers ends up taking this probably by about 15 kills in the last few battles. So moving on to the next match, it is Cocaine at Evolution. Fausto, go ahead.
Not much to say. I kind of felt like a repetitive person week in and week out. I hope Evolution does something a little different. I noticed you guys, and because Draco's on here, is you guys ball up and push a lot. You guys know one movement, and that's push as one group. Cocaine's going to surround you guys. I mean, look at the video playback on their matches throughout the season, especially on UD. They'll send 2 solos every time because they know they can hold you guys off 6v8. So just be aware of that. Be conscious of those movements and be prepared to hold your angles. So it's going to be unfortunately a landslide victory. I think it's going to be an 80 kill differential. I hope that's not the case, but yeah, people are going to just pop off on the Cocaine side, and yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, Isa.
Not much more to add on top of that. It's going to be a rough one, I think, for Evolution. I'm not sure who has the side. I actually think Cocaine. Well, it doesn't really matter. There's still going to be a pretty big win. Hopefully, Evolution keeps it close. I just don't see it happening. This is going to be one of those fantasy matches, so you just pick, 8 Cocaine guys and just kind of let them go. Pop off. But yeah, big win by Cocaine. I don't know if this seals the number 1 seed. That's probably something we'll talk about later at some point. But I think this is going to be, that match that kind of gets them that 1 seed, and just kind of hopefully they carry that to the playoffs. But yeah, should be a pretty decisive win. I'd say 70 kills.
You guys already have the 1 seed locked up. Unless you magically lose to Evo here, you guys have it locked because you guys,
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
you guys won by the kill differential. So go ahead, Angelus.
Yeah, I've been on here since week 3 saying the same thing, so I'll just repeat it 1 or 2 more times, I guess, as the season wraps up. I don't think the death ball strategy is effective. It's proven ineffective all season for these guys. I just want to see some split groups here, whether it's 4-4, 1-3-4, 3-5, anything. Just get a couple groups set up so you have multiple angles instead of allowing your whole death ball to get surrounded, because we took advantage of that with our backups in last week. I would fear it's going to look the exact same way against Cocaine, if not even more dominant. So hoping for the best, but kind of running out of expectations here.
Draco.
So I'm not worried about the result. It's what happens during the game. I think seeing what happened last week, I'm sure Bowen's going to look at the video and we're going to come up with a different game plan. And I just want my guys to show up, hold angles, do what we got to do, prove that we have the players and the capability to hold against the squad. And I think at times, like, we can focus out some players and do the right things. I'm not worried about landslide victories or anything like that here. I don't really care. I just want to see the team gel and come together. So, and I want Stoink to win the hat. So I hope Stoink goes off. So.
Yeah, no, I just to kind of echo what you said, Draco. I think all of us would appreciate just some form of consistency in play. It doesn't mean you have to go out there and go toe to toe or win. Like, even if you're losing the battles, but doing everything that you should be doing correctly, like over half your roster should know how to do after playing Infantry for 20 plus years. Like, just be able to do the basics, perform that. You might be able to squeeze some kills, maybe even win a battle, but it's an uphill battle against Cocaine. Obviously, everybody else has said it. I think Cocaine wins by at least 80. But I agree. I echo your sentiments. I do think it would be nice to see you guys actually do just the basics properly for one game and then carry that into the stupid play-ins. So next match will be the final match, which is MDR at K-Dude. Fausto, go ahead.
This should be a fun match to watch. I think it's going to be very slow paced. I think it's going to be similar to K-Dude versus Dark Slayers. I know Angelus may say that they're going to kind of, push and be a little more aggressive, but I don't see that happening. I think their first encounter was a blowout, and so I really do hope that Macrodata has done their homework against K-Dude because what K-Dude is good at is that when something doesn't work out in real time, they make the adjustment on the fly. So if they send Eric to solo and for whatever reason Macrodata has a person watching, and let's just say for the sake of commentary, Angelus watching Eric, okay, and that battle doesn't play out the way Sav wanted to, then the next match they'll send 2 solos. If that doesn't work out, they'll send 3 solos, or they'll send 2 from one position and 1 on an additional side, because K-Dude is very content and they know that they can hold a lot of our squads, including my own, down 1 or 2 players every battle while their team on the outside gets in position. So I want Macrodata to be aware of that, to be situationally aware as to what they do, and you may have a chance to take it. I still see K-Dude running away with this. I think there's going to be some mistakes on Macrodata's side that they're going to be unavoidable. What people don't really talk about on K-Dude is that they're very good at making people make mistakes on the opposite side of the field. They'll make you think that they're low, you push in, and they'll draw fire back at you. And so just be cognizant of that. My player to watch on K-Dude, on this one, I think Champion's going to show, so I'm going to be watching Champion. And on Macrodata, I'm going to see what Chompy does. I believe Angela said that he led this past week. So if he is going to lead against K-Dude, I really want to see how he does versus a top-tier squad. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to come down to the medics and support classes, which I think K-Dude is going to obviously overpower Macrodata. The score is going to be probably a 30 to 40 kill differential in favor of K-Dude winning this match.
Okay, Iso.
Yeah, I want to say it's going to be close, but I feel it's gonna be similar to the last matchup they had. K-Dude will probably win, honestly, by 40 to 50 kills or so. I'm hoping MDR can keep it close, but I just feel like even when the last time they played, there was a few players that actually sat out that were pretty big players for MDR. So I'm not sure what that is. Like, joking aside, I mean, I've never seen someone just like be in spec and sit out for a game, especially when you're a top player for your squad. But we'll see what happens. I definitely think that K-Dude is gonna once again just kind of show them that they're a little bit better, well, a lot better. But big shout out to MDR because they have made a huge jump from the beginning of the season to where they are now. But this is the type of match where you just see like what the top level competition of the league is, and MDR is just not there yet. They need a few more seasons, and unfortunately, K-Dude is gonna, once again show out against them and have a big win.
Okay, Angelus.
Yeah, I think it's going to be upsetting to Fausto, but we're probably not going to play it slow this time either. We're of the mindset if we do get down, the only way to get back up is to kill them. So we're still going to be going forward. And I've talked about snowball effect before. It could happen where we get down a little bit, then 14 becomes 21, which becomes 41, and suddenly it's 49 to 3. We've been in those games. On the other hand, maybe we can get ahead, but even then, there's not much to play for in this game, like as far as standings for us, because the expectation is we're not going to beat K-Dude. And I think that's a fair statement. But it's not like we're chasing the whole rating thing like I've talked about for the past 2 or 3 weeks. So we're going out there just trying to learn the map, how to play on the map. Uh, the map for finals hasn't been announced. I'm hopeful it's this map though because I think it's a cool map. It's small, which to me feels forgiving because if you die, you can still make it back to a big fight. But I don't know. I think we don't even know the roster yet, like who's going to play. So for all you people PMing me about fantasy, I don't know. We haven't really talked about it. We're planning different stuff as we get ready for playoffs because again, it's kind of a foregone conclusion what's going to happen this week. So who knows? We may put in the same lineup we had this past Sunday. We may try to get what we think is our best 8 players in. We'll probably figure that out like an hour before the match on Sunday.
All right, Draco.
Yeah, I think K-Dude wins this. I think Sav is just too good on this map, but I think MDR will put up a decent fight. What Angela says, they're just going to go toe-to-toe with them. I'd be interested to see how Chompy does against a top-tier squad, like Fausto said, and see how they deal with the rotation that K-Dude usually does on this map, and I think they're probably one of the best at it. So yeah, it'd be an interesting match to kind of view, and I'm kind of pulling for MDR for sure. I'm kind of interested to see what kind of lineup they show for next week. But yeah, K-Dude by like 25 or so.
Okay. Yeah, Fausto kind of already alluded to it. If I'm not soloing playing AT, it's going to be Solve soloing playing AT. And I feel like either one of us are going to run into Chompy, and it's going to turn into a 2v1 or a 3v1 situation where we just make him burn his dash and then he's out of the fight. I am happy to hear that you guys want to go toe to toe, not because I'm greedy and I want to sit there and get kills. I like to see squads in the mid tier try and take it to a top tier squad because you're learning the push. You're practice makes perfect, right? You want to sit there and try and go toe to toe and see if you can take angles from these guys or pressure some of these guys to carry into playoffs. Because as you said, you're really not playing for anything at this point other than experience. Because to me, the seedings are already set. Cocaine's got 1. We have 2. Dark Slayers has 3. You guys have 4. And then 5 and 6 are solidified with Franco and Evo. So to me, this is, as you said, a good game for you guys to get experience, see how you guys can perform when you're trying to fight for those angles and try and take it to a top tier squad, as people have said. I think the score will essentially get out of hand, especially if you're going to play like that. But I would say it would be nice to see if you actually did play your top 8, if they agree to actually play in this match. Because obviously we know that some players are like, oh, we're going to get stat padded, we don't want to play. It would be nice to see you guys field your top 8 and try and do what you said you're going to do and see how you perform, because that'll be a good indication of how you guys will be able to push against Cocaine, or let me not get too far ahead of myself. How you push against Franco in the play-in, and then possibly Cocaine in the semis, right? So I think we still win by 60 to 70, but I look forward to the match. Anybody else got anything else to say on this one?
No, I'm good.
Alrighty. Well, last thing I got is mailbag. I've only got 2 questions, which is fine by me. Fausto, how many you got?
6.
Oh boy. Okay.
But I can leave some out for time if you want me to.
I mean, we've got 13 minutes. I think we're okay. Iso, you got 1 too?
Yeah, I just got 1.
And Angelus, you got 1?
Yeah, just 1.
Okay, Angelus, start off with yours.
Okay. Since EC was chosen for the first 2 rounds of playoffs, does Cocaine realistically stand any chance now to win the title? We saw them camp on the superior side of UD versus Dark Slayers. Is there any chance they can actually come up and beat a soft squad on any map other than EC, given they've shown 0 pushing talent and play like camping pieces of shit? Could have been anyone. I don't know who sent that. It could have been anyone.
Well, I mean, lucky for them, I guess it's the semifinal map, so they don't have to worry about it in the champ match. And in the semifinals, they will have the superior side, because it's not like they have to do the 3v3s for side selection like in champ match. So they're gonna have the left side. So if they don't have to push, they're gonna sit by their base again. Who knows?
Yeah, I would just add, answering the question, that I've seen Cocaine push. Like on KS10, we SP'd them a lot, and they pushed the hell out of us. You know, we are getting base raped on a large map, losing by 100 on a few consecutive nights. So I think they can push. Obviously, their match against K-Dude was very scrutinized a few weeks ago and quite terrible to watch. But I don't know. I think Cocaine stands a valid chance to win it all this season. I'd probably say K-Dude's the favorites right now, but I wouldn't be super shocked if Cocaine won. I mean, they beat them once, so it'd be crazy to say they can't do it again.
To kind of chime in there, I think Cocaine plays a specific way during the week and practice Bs and play different on Sundays. That's just a personal take on it, because we SB them all the time during the week, and they do push a lot. But then on the weekend, they may push here and there. But for the most part, it's a more positional game for them, which, hey, I respect, I get it. Everybody does it. So, I know there's been a nickname called Camp Kane, and one of my questions that I'm not going to ask anymore because it's similar to what they asked you, Angelus, is, why do they continue to kind of camp even when they might be up in a battle or when they're the superior squad against a mid-tier or lower-tier squad? I'm not too sure, but, I think they have a very good shot at winning the match or winning the entire season. But I think this season is pretty indicative that we got 4 pretty decent squads now. K-Dude and Cocaine are obviously the favorites, but I think it's a very competitive season overall.
Iso, you got anything to chime in on that?
The only thing I'd really say is, I mean, if you would have asked anybody in the league if they would have thought Cocaine finished the #1 seed at the beginning of the season, you probably would have got 100% no on that. So, like Fausto said, they beat them once. I mean, do I think it'll happen again? Probably not. They do have the best chance to do it, but the map definitely does play a big part, unfortunately. So we'll see how it goes. But I mean, honestly, from what I've seen, is we were talking about K-Dude having arguably the best lineup ever assembled, and I mean, the fact that they didn't finish as a #1 seed to me is actually a pretty big shock. I feel like we're not really even talking about that much, because I know I never would hear it down if I had this lineup.
Fair. Draco, you got anything to add?
No, not too much. Like I said, regular season, playoffs are a whole different beast, right? So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, very valid. Iso, go ahead and say yours.
Oh yeah, let me pull it up here. We kind of touched on it a bit, but it's is DS even better than Franco without Shas / Man U? Oh, sorry about that. Are they better than Franco without those two players?
Fausto?
Uh,
Angelus?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think we're about to find out, right? That's this week, and if they don't show, then we're gonna find out quickly. I will say, like our squad, DS looks a lot different when they're missing two of their top three players, just like we do. We look different when we had Albert and Rio out there getting 20 kills each than we do when it's, you come down to the next level and maybe it's me and I don't know, Hearth or something, and we're going 8-3 instead of 20-2. So I think DS is facing a lot of the same, where they've got big killers that suddenly aren't showing up, and I think it does make a big difference. But I don't know. I look forward to finding out Sunday.
I will say that that goes for every squad, right? If you lose 1 to 2 players, your key players, the squads are totally different. I mean, you can see it from the top squads to the lower tier squads. I mean, it's like saying, is Franco better or worse if Pandy and Sabotage aren't there? Well, of course they're a different squad, right? Same thing for K-Dude when Champion's not in and Sov is playing a different class or not there. It changes the dynamic of the squad. Um, do I think that we're better than Franco overall? I think overall we are the more capable squad. Can they upset us? Yes, they can upset us if people don't play on my side. If people don't play smart and watch their position and their situational awareness. But overall, I think we're a more well-rounded squad. But is there a cause for upset? Oh yeah, there's cause for upset.
Yeah, I agree with Fausto. I think they have the capability to upset Dark Slayers, but overall Dark Slayers is the better squad, even if like Shasta and Manu don't show. I think it boils down to leadership, and Fausto outleads anybody on Bax's squad. Fausto, go ahead and answer one of yours, or ask one of yours.
Kind of to what Iso brought up a little while ago. My first one's towards K-Dude is what happened to K-Dude? They are barely beating mid and lower tier squads. Was the preseason hype fluff, or are they turning into plumbers?
As the only K Dude member here, I'll answer first. I will say that somebody said it's just regular season. It is what it is, and kind of what Fausto said. Sov had to switch to medic because Iron didn't show up. Sov kept him locked in the basement, so his rations were cut, and Sov had the med. And it's definitely a different dynamic when Sov isn't on a killing class. I mean, we saw that when Warhawks beat anything to win, Sov was medding then too. So it definitely impacts the squad, and I think there's too many chefs in the kitchen at the time. At some points, I'm a very vocal player. Colossal's very vocal. Ernie's vocal. Obviously, Sov and TG. And I think sometimes some people, myself included, like to kind of make our own call, and it causes things to mess up. So I think that playoffs come around, you'll see the K Dude everybody was predicting.
Anybody else?
I'll say really quickly. The only thing that does surprise me, kind of, we talked about it already, is just that K-Dude has had their top lineup almost every single match. If you look at it, that was actually surprising for me. I would have definitely expected like a lot more people to miss matches. But when the playoffs do come, just like Eric was saying, I think for sure you're going to see the top lineup and their top performers just kind of show out. So I don't think it's anything really to be worried about.
Anybody else? Okay. Fausto, go ahead and do another one. Like I said, I've only got 2.
Okay. Who will show for playoffs first, Kaga or Iso? They both no show on a weekly basis. Wink, wink, Iso. Can you really count on them?
Iso's 100% showing for playoffs. Again, I just alluded to it. Talking about K-Dude. Playoffs is... Regular season is whatever at this point. A lot of us have gotten our stats in regular season. Don't really care about results as long as we make playoffs. And this season, every fucking squad is making playoffs, right? So Iso's going to show for playoffs. And apparently, like I said earlier, Tyrael burned the bridge with Kaga, so I doubt Kaga's going to show.
Then I'll answer on my end. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll be there for playoffs. And yeah, once I
On
feel
a secret alias?
like
Real alias.
and on the real alias.
There you go.
But I think once they announced that like everybody was gonna make playoffs, at least for me, it's like that kind of killed the regular season. I mean, the only thing I really wanted to do was play K-Dude. That was pretty much about it, and that's what I did.
Angelus, Draco, you guys got anything?
No.
Yeah, I would just add, like, from the CTF perspective, it has been surprising to me that, like, the regular season is taken so lightly and people miss so many games. Like, I'm not trying to call out Iso or Kaga. I don't know what goes on in their lives, but, like, in CTF, we always expect to see pretty much the same 10 people showing up for a match. You've maybe got the 16-person squad. 6 of them are making up, like, your practice bench. You're going to work with them through the week, but starters are starters. Whereas here in Skirmish, man, it's so mixed bag for every squad. Like, I don't know if it's just everyone trying to get playtime or people just don't enjoy it that much, but it's really been a lot different than what we're used to seeing. Like, okay, there's their fixed 10 versus, oh, they have 6 subs this week. Oh, they have 4 subs this week. Like, it just seems all over the place to me. And I don't know if it's always been that way here or it's just the wear and tear of the league. People aren't having as much as fun or valuing the regular season.
Yeah, fair. Kevin says Sov's last regular season loss was season 12. I'll kind of toss this in the mailbag. Let's put it this way. This isn't Sov squad. He's just a member on this one, right? So if it was a Sov squad, I don't think we'd have a loss this season. Just for some spiciness, right? Anybody else? Draco, you got anything to add?
No, not really. I'm just kind of interested to see how the playoffs kind of go, and I'll chime in as well. Like, I'm not a fan of like every squad getting in, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to see how Dark Slayers. That's kind of my pick, kind of going into upset a team. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. I'll toss in one of my questions. Give Fausto a break here. Why did Bowen allow someone who barely went positive against Evolution rewrite the rules? He clearly can barely play the game. How would he know anything about the league?
Yikes. I'm not sure how to answer that one. That's stepping on people's toes, but that's when I was a little AFK there, so I'll forego a further response there. I think we do need to rewrite some of the rules though, and include some people. And Ernie said that's a Pister question.
It was actually not a Pister question. I do agree to it to some extent. Especially with Grump kind of just coming back, it's kind of interesting to see his interpretation of how the rules should be when he hasn't had the experience over the last few seasons. I'm not saying all the rules are bad, but there are definitely some that are questionable. Anybody else have anything to add on that one?
Nah.
I think he just wants to do what's best for the league, and his input is, it can work, and seeing what sticks and what doesn't. I think that's kind of how most seasons go for USL. They're like, hey, let's try this out and see what happens. I think that's kind of what that is more than anything else.
All right, Foster, go ahead with one of yours.
Okay, so kind of what we've been discussing here. Should Bowen not have allowed all squads to make playoffs? Was it wrong of him to do from a competitive standpoint?
I think it takes away from those squads that actually you would think earn a spot, right? Some people won't play as hard or play like their top players or try, and I think it kind of takes away from some of the competitiveness in the game. As being on like the bottom tier team, it sounds great to be in the playoffs, but also like I just don't feel like I belong there, and it kind of I don't know if I will even show up to play that during the playoffs. I'd rather just see some of my other squad mates play and see how they do. But yeah, I think that's like one of the biggest things for me is just, earning a spot is like one of the biggest parts of USL playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Iso already said it. It definitely made the regular season even less valuable to really compete in. Like, I I think a lot of us disagreed with allowing every single squad to make playoffs. There was no point. If you were going to include not everybody, but more squads, I would have preferred, I think SV brought it up, the first seed gets a bye and then 2 through 5 play. If it was like exactly Mecca. Like if every squad was super competitive and like we didn't have a squad that wasn't getting blown out by 80 plus kills every week and didn't have a winless record, I could see the argument for having 6, but that wasn't the case. So I think it definitely ruined or rather soured the taste of the regular season for a lot of people. I definitely think it was a stupid idea.
I'll just say, like, as the new guy coming in, uh, I don't remember if it was voted on or it was just decided at some point. But when we found out it was all six squads, we were kind of like relieved, like, oh, well, there's nothing we can fuck up too bad in the regular season where we don't get to play in the playoffs. But now that we've played throughout the season, like hindsight's 2020, I agree with the majority. Like, it would have been much better with 5 or even down to 4 squads, because I mentioned a few weeks ago, once we realized we're probably going to get the 4 seed, our interest just like it dropped. There was nothing else to play for, and just it could have kept like the other squads maybe trying harder up to the middle of the season to lock in, whatever playoff seeds mattered. But it just kind of fell apart at the end. So I think it's just a lessons learned going forward for the league.
Yep. My next question is, if Infantry / USL was the WWE, who would be the faces and who would be the heels?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Is there a number? I mean, of people we're talking about here, or just squads?
I think this was individual people as like who would be the faces and who would be the heels. I don't. It didn't give me a set number, so if you want to give multiple for faces and multiple for heels, go for it.
I mean, interesting take. I'm gonna say that just a couple. I'm gonna just throw some big names out there of the game, just because more people know them. So I would say, Sov would be a good guy, or you call it face, I guess, right? You called it
Yeah, face.
a face, because he's always been able to give advice to newcomers and things like that. I would say a heel, obviously somebody like Bax would be a heel, just because there's not a lot of positivity there, even though he's a born again Christian according to himself. I think he said he has risen about 10 times on Sunday. Hollow's already countering me. Another couple of faces, I would say Bowen for sure, not just because he's on staff. Um, I would say players like Draco, Tactical would be faces. Iron would be a face. Slav would be a heel. Kaga would be a heel. Eric definitely a fucking heel. Dude's a troll for the last 20 some years.
Wow, dude.
I think Angelus would pretend to be a face for like midway of a season and then come out with a chair to help one of his friends out and become a heel. So that's what I'm gonna say.
I would say
I love you, Angelus.
I would
I like
say the heels are definitely like people like Bax, Octavian. Yeah, I'll throw myself in there because I constantly troll. That's valid. Iso's a heel. Kaga's a heel. I don't know why you put Slob in there. Slob hasn't done anything. Some faces. Gotta go with Ernie. Sov just because he's really been probably one of the most active and, like you said, helpful to like newcomers and everything like that. Champion mainly because he's hosted the site for many years. And that's all I got. Isa, you got anything?
Nah, I pretty much agree with the list you made. That's pretty accurate.
Draco, you got anything?
No, it's a pretty solid list.
Okay, Angelus?
I would just say like the faces are the ones that like personally were helping us when we came along. So it's like Ernie's obviously a face. The patience of Chompy and Yosh, that was face talent and whatnot. The hills are just the trolls, which is I feel like 90% of the community. And Fausto's probably right. If I stick around too long, I'll become one as well.
I'm gonna say fuck you, Angelus, after all the help I've given you.
Yeah,
dude.
here's the troll. See, it's nothing. It's fake help. It was bad
Damn,
advice to blow us out by
I guess
100.
I'm not I guess I'm not a face. Jeez.
All right, Fausto, what other questions you got, bud? I'm out.
Okay, so I got 3 left. I'll kind of okay. So a commentator asked Splitta who he prefers to play in the playoffs, MDR or Dark Slayers. Who would the panel rather play in the playoffs and why?
I feel like DS and MDR are gonna play very similar come playoff time. So I mean, it's the same to me. It doesn't matter. But I think I'd rather play MDR than DS.
What's the why?
Oh,
That question, I
why?
guess.
I think that some of the players on MDR are just a little inexperienced, and we'd be able to capitalize on that. Whereas come playoff time, you'll be able to rein in some of the smooth brain players on your team and be able to keep them in check and stop them from making mistakes.
That's fair. ESO, Draco. I guess me and Angelus are kind of out of this question.
I was gonna say Eric kind of just hit the nail on the head there. The inexperienced Dark Slayers was already last season in the playoffs and was what was it like 1 kill away from beating the championship squad. So definitely experience is the biggest factor. I would lean towards playing MDR if I had to choose.
Yeah, definitely. Probably MDR would be my choice as well.
Okay.
All right. Next question. What player is the most impactful player on each squad this season? What separates them from their squad mates?
Oh, you're gonna make me pull up rosters.
I know. I got that. I should have done that earlier. I had the question the longest time.
Just off of my own squad, Sov. Obviously he can med when he needs to. He's been deadly on AT. More recently, kind of taking more ownership of leading. So yeah, I would say Sov for K dude. Cocaine's got to be Pister. If actually, you know what? I'll throw Pister out and say Victim. I think he's been the staple med for these guys, and without his consistent play, I think that these guys don't win some of the fights or even some of the SB or matches that they play. Evolution's Draco. I don't even have to look at scores for that. Franco has got to be Sabo. Sabo's been the most consistent player for them. We've already touched on that. For MDR, it's got to be Rio. They look like a completely different team when Rio's in and helping call shots and focus fire. He brings to the team like that finishing power that like DS, as Fausto has said, they lack. MDR definitely lacks that when Rio isn't in. So definitely him. And for Dark Slayers, it's got to be Fausto. I mean, he leads. I could say Tyrael, but I don't think that Tyrael gets some of the kills that he gets without Fausto putting them in the position to do it.
I do like your list here. I'll chime in on this one. For Franco, I do have Sabotage as well. He's just been consistent throughout the entire season, and I'm glad he showed up consistently. One of my fears was that he was going to just kind of pick and choose the matches, and he's shown up. I agree with you on MDR for Legacy, aka Rio. I think he's just a difference maker, and that backpack does not seem to get full. He just continues to carry the team one way or another. And one thing that I think Angelus alludes to a lot is that he does help either lead and or do a lot of the shot calling. Evolution, Draco, bar none, veteran player, veteran knowledge, and in the right place at the right time. I wish his teammates would mimic and mirror what he was doing on the battlefield. Cocaine, I'm going to say victim as well, just solid medic all around. But I'm also going to say it might be a tie with Splitta. I know he trolls. I know there's he's very public in terms of being a heel, so to speak, but he's been very consistent for that squad. And he leads a lot of the time during the week, which allows Cocaine to have that cohesiveness on Sundays. For K Dude, I'm gonna say like Eric alluded to, Sov. I think he's just a difference maker. You see what he does when he's in a killing class versus a med class, but he's always there to help lead and help coach his guys and help provide that constant reassurance as to what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong. For DS, I'm not going to pick myself. I'm going to pick Tyrael on this, just because he has opened up some key battles for us consistently, regardless of whatever class he plays on. I know he's gotten a bad rap for always playing support classes, but I feel like he's really shown out that he can play the support class as well.
Okay. Iso, Angelus, Draco.
I'm not gonna run through the list. I'm just gonna say I pretty much echo the same. Pretty much the similar players. Might just switch a few around, but you guys got most of them.
Okay. Angelus.
Yeah, I'll just touch on mine a little bit. I agree. Rio's probably our biggest shot caller and strongest killing power. But on the other hand, like we were able to play a lot differently when we had Albert leading for us and Yosh leading for us. I just want to shout out the leaders for my team because if I'd come into this league and I was trying to like shot call myself, not to poke fun at Draco, but we'd look a lot like Evolution because I just didn't know what was going on. So the guys who took charge of us the first 6 to 7 weeks now and taught us the maps, lead for us, I think those are the real difference makers on our squad.
Okay. Draco.
Yeah, DS. I have Uni. I think Uni has really stepped up this season. I think DS has played really well with him in the lineup. King also. I mean, you could toss them too, but I want to pick Uni here because I think he's just a great player.
Okay.
So for like Cocaine, I feel like man, Victim has played fantastic throughout the season. So I'm gonna say Victim for Cocaine. Let's see here. Evolution. I'm just gonna pick Bowen just for sticking with the team and leading the team when he's there. I think he's done a fantastic job being an admin and leading the team. I think it takes a lot to do that. So I think he's been the MVP of our squad in that sense. So I think without him, I think we really struggled, and it showed last week.
Okay. I'm gonna steal this from Spec Chat as our final question. Kind of the reverse. Okay. But I'll still do this, and then we'll use yours as the final.
All right, cool.
So reverse of most valuable. Who was the least valuable for each team? I'll start off. I'll say myself out of the regular starters. I'll say myself for K-Dude. I definitely have not had a good season in my opinion. I definitely know I can play better than how I have played. For MDR, Joe, fuck that guy. For cocaine, ESO for being a hider troll. For Dark Slayers, I'm gonna say Havoc. I don't think Havoc's had a very consistent good season. I think he's taken a lot of bad deaths, and I think he's been out of position a few times. I don't think he just doesn't look the same that he did like last season. For Franco, I'll say Pandy. In the big games, he's been pretty playoff Pandy-esque, if you will. And I think that's everybody. Fausto, Angelus, anybody else got a list?
I'll do for cocaine ESO just because he picks and chooses when he logs in. I think that cocaine would be a totally different squad with him in consistently. Evolution, I'm gonna say that dude. I mean, I think he could play better overall, just out of position. Franco, I'm gonna say backs. Mainly, like Jordan had mentioned, a lot of people have left his squad, and so I feel like if he had a better, friendlier culture in there, I think he could attract a few more talented players. For K Dude, I'll just piggyback on you, Eric, and just say you, just because I know what you're capable of. And macro data, I'm not too sure on macro data, really. I mean, I'm gonna say
Just say
Angelus.
Joe. No. Just say Joe.
Oh, okay. Well, it'll be a two-piece. It'll be Joe number 1, and then Angelus number 2. Mainly because I know that Angelus is like some god in CTF, so I know he's more than capable in USL. Maybe his score doesn't indicate that, but I know with time he'll be a lot better in our league.
Okay. Angelus, ESO.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just mention for my squad, it's obviously RR user. We all hate him. Everyone hates him. He's terrible. You can move on.
All right, Draco, ESO, you guys got any?
What were you expecting to accomplish?
Nothing. You know what? I just want to pick myself for, the least valuable player. And the reason why I say that, I feel like my expectations were much higher for myself. And, I expect to get a lot more kills, a lot more opening battles, and just to kind of carry the team as much as I could. But yeah, I felt like I could have played a lot better. So other than that, that's all I got.
ESO, you got anything?
Nah, just definitely for cocaine, I'd say myself. Although I would also say if it wasn't for me, I don't think cocaine's sitting at number 1. So I'm just gonna say that as well. And that's about it. I don't want to go through the whole list.
Okay, so I got one more question left, Eric. This is kind of a trolly one. Based on Eric's recent comment, if Sav was captain, we wouldn't have lost a game this season. Is he throwing shade at TG? Sounds like he's suggesting the most stacked squad underperformed because of his leadership.
No, I'm saying if it was a Sov squad, we'd all be logging in and being active and not playing rivals. We would actually be actively scrimming and practicing. I think you see that with a Sov squad more so than a TG squad, and that's been proven over the past few seasons. Like, Birds hardly has speed, right? But I also agree, or I also said earlier that right now there's too many chefs in the kitchen with all of us talking. I think that once that gets cut out, come playoff time, we'll be fine.
Pretty good take on that, Eric. I think people always want everybody to be vocal, but it actually does cause a hinder when there's too many people talking all at once.
Yep. Anybody else?
Anybody else?
On that?
Nope.
All right, ESO, I'm being told you have one last question. Would you like to read that?
Yeah, at least you came to me. I was about to say. So just one final one to cap it off. It says, I think we can all agree that Bax finally had a great performance over the weekend. It's rumored he's participating in a fast, only taking water for the past few days. Does Bax finally have his blood sugar regulated? His diabetes in check? Is that the key to unlocking his greatness, or is something else at play?
I think.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know he was diabetic.
I think that part of the reason he had such a good game, he stole all of Jim's kills. Jim was putting in work, and then obviously like having Soul in your lineup takes a lot of pressure off your other players, which allows them to perform as well. So I think Bax just capitalized on having two good NTs and Jim playing very well. Anybody else?
I'm good. I don't even know how to approach that question.
Yeah, I'm good.
Iso, you got anything to add to that one?
Nah, man.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's USL Live. Thanks for joining us, guys.